Hello, I'm Christina Dovolis, and this is Ness, and we are going to be presenting on local solutions to climate change and environmental racism. And we will be looking at the case study in East Phillips, a neighborhood in South Minneapolis. So to start us off with a little bit of context, East Phillips is the most diverse neighborhood in Minneapolis. It has the highest, highest native population in the city. It is 20% Black, 40% Hispanic or Latino, and it is just a wonderful neighborhood that has businesses and people from all sorts of different backgrounds. However, it is also one of the most low-income neighborhoods in Minneapolis. And because of these demographics, it has been targeted for environmental racism as a neighborhood where industries are like, hey, this is a disadvantaged neighborhood. We can put polluting facilities here. And it has been redlined in that way for the last 100 years. The neighborhood has always been a place where new immigrants come and they kind of settle and they make their homes. And as a result, it's targeted. And with that, it has the highest rates of asthma hospitalizations in the states, highest rates of cardiovascular hospitalization, highest rates of arsenic and lead poisoning in children, and so many deaths have been associated with those things. It really is targeted and different from all other neighborhoods in Minneapolis, unfortunately. And it is continuing to be targeted as a site, as currently Minneapolis is looking to put their public works facility within East Phillips, which is extremely polluting. That will bring in hundreds of diesel trucks a day. It'll have a huge parking garage. It'll limit the area and won't be accessible for residents, won't provide jobs for residents. And so it's extremely problematic in this continuation of racist urban planning and environmental injustices. And in our current context, this is continuing today where the community is saying, hey, we don't want this, we want something else. And they banded together and created an organization, East Phillips Neighborhood Institute, or EPNI. And they said, okay, what do we want in our neighborhood? How can we improve the pollution in this neighborhood, the deaths in this neighborhood that are related to the pollution? And they said, hey, let's make an urban farm. This will provide food security. This will provide living wage jobs. This will provide a sense of community, all of these wonderful things. And in that development, they said, okay, why don't we put it at the Roof Depot? It's a vacant building. It's huge. It's in wonderful condition. And so they offered the buyer money for the building. However, the city caught wind and said, no, we want this building. The community can't have it, and bought it from under the community for their public works facility. So this is just a continuation of what has been happening over decades and decades and decades. And now the community's, fighting back to try to get this Roof Depot. But we'll talk about that later. Anne, do you want to continue on?
Yeah, I wanted to talk about this as a climate change adaptation professional. Our air pollution is getting worse in urban areas because of global warming and climate change. There are more inversion events happening every year, and that's when hot and cold air fronts meet and trap particulate matter at the ground level. And since the EPNI wants to save the Roof Depot, the arsenic that's sequestered under there will stay under there. But if the city tears it up as they plan to, there will be even more arsenic in the air, and in the summertime, it will be trapped at ground level by inversion events. The Minnesota Pollution Control Agency did an air quality study in Phillips and said that the level of particulate matter was acceptable in 2016. But they did that study in late September, early October, when there are no inversion events. They happen more in the spring and in the summer, and they are increasing. So one thing we need to do to address the effects of climate change on air pollution in urban areas is to monitor for inversion events and check air quality during those events and get people to stay inside, and don't desequester arsenic that is hidden under a building, especially if people want to use that building. And another way that climate change can be addressed is by changing the way we get our food. And the Lancet International Report on Global Warming last November, they announced at their announcement of the release of their new report, they said agriculture is the biggest driver of climate change. They used to think it was transportation, but the way we grow food is releasing too many greenhouse gases into the atmosphere. But organic gardening that is done close to where it's needed, point of use gardening, is gonna sequester carbon instead of releasing greenhouse gases into the air. It's gonna bring carbon into the soil that we use for growing things and into the plants that we grow. And that is a nationwide project that needs to happen, that more food needs to be grown at the point of use. There need to be many small urban farms to help meet the food needs of people. Also because the food will be more healthy and nutritious when it's grown at the point of use. Phytochemicals help people recover from the effects of air pollution. Air pollution affects your airway, but it also affects your liver and your kidneys. And a new study that's listed on the references there showed how eating green vegetables can help your body detoxify from the effects of air pollution by strengthening the liver and the kidneys. So those terrible illness hospitalizations might be avoided if people have more access to fresh green vegetables, if we address the problem of food deserts and grow food locally, like we will when EPNI gets its urban farm. And so back to you, Christina.
Wonderful. So how is EPNI fighting to create this national model for combating environmental injustice? So in this urban farm vision, we're kind of attacking three things: environmental justice, economic justice, and racial justice. And it's a culmination of these things, and not a lot of projects attack all of these issues at the same time. So that's why it's so important to look at how multifaceted urban farming can be, especially when it's community owned. So first, looking at environmental justice, we want to create this urban farm that features both high tech, low tech, aquaponics, hydroponics, and the building, the roof depot, is already the perfect site. It's 100,000 square feet. It's already a warehouse, and it can be easily transformed for tomatoes, lettuce, all of those different products can be made. And it will have direct links to the existing urban farm at Little Earth, which is the largest native preference housing in the United States, actually, and the only in the United States. And so they've been working on their urban expertise and transforming, it went from gardening and now it's at medium scale farming. And so partnering with them, we can, one, work and incorporate our native community, and then also develop trainings for East Phillips as a whole. So we're not only feeding the neighborhood, we're also providing jobs, ways in order to cook and to do all these things. And so with this environmental justice, it's very, multifaceted, and will, help with these health challenges and provide sustainable food, healthy foods, all of those things. Then looking at economic justice, currently East Phillips is a food desert, as is many low-income communities. And these farming practices, they're going to grow into commercial enterprises. This project is a business incubator. Entrepreneurs can come, they can learn, and they can say, okay, what can I make from this? Youth kitchens, coffee shops, business consulting, food distributors, restaurants, cafes, grocers, all of these things can spur from urban farming, because now you're creating an industry, you're creating a local economy that is created by the population there. And so this is, second chance employment, trainings, all of these things that the community desperately needs. And already there are many local businesses that say, hey, we want to partner with this farm. We want space here. We want cultural markets. We want galleries. We want this to be a space for us that we can grow and develop. And then lastly, racial justice, which is the most important. It's not just about stopping pollution, not just about creating green jobs. Racism is the root of so many issues in our city, and as we know, is a public health crisis as well. And because for decades it's been home to toxic, polluting industries, we can say, hey, our lives matter. It is important for us to lift up communities of color and lift up communities of color in East Phillips. So it will be owned and operated by the local population. We want this to be a community ownership model, somewhat similar to what you see with the Green Bay Packers. Everybody owns a little bit, and it makes people so proud to own it, and it gives people economic mobility, and that will come with business rental subsidies for minority entrepreneurs and help with educational programs, offering resettlement space for burned out businesses along Lake Street, affordable housing with 30% AMI. So all of these things can be cultivated and tied together, and we're localizing power into the hands of the community so that residents can feel safe and supported in pursuing, their dreams for decades to come. And so I think that kind of explains, hey, how are we attacking this? Now it's just about getting the building.
Yes, go team.
Yeah.
More than 1,000 people commented to the city administrator in the public commentary period about the environmental assessment worksheet, which is all the city thought they needed to determine that it was safe to put the parking garage in there and tear up the building. And we've demanded an environmental impact statement. And we've delayed their decision to demolish another month and a half.
Yes, definitely. Yeah. So they didn't even want to do an environmental assessment at first in EAW. And that's like kindergarten level for what you are looking at. That doesn't look at cumulative pollution. That doesn't look like at pollutions in the soil. And the city said, oh yeah, this is fine, but it's not fine. And, over 1,000 people spoke out and said, no, this isn't okay. This is just a way for you to, tear down the roof depot and take from the community this really important resource. So we are hopefully going to get a stronger environmental study or just stop the project in general.
Yes, thank you so much for all you do for this project, Christina.
Thank you, Anne. And thank you, everyone, for watching our presentation.
Yeah, thank you, everybody.
Okay, is that it?
Yeah.
Yay!
I'm trying to end it. Okay, what? I missed it.